the others. The Select Committee has been instrumental over the last 14 years in the development and the growth of the UC Merced campus. And this year we had the opportunity to secure funding for our engineering building that we're very pleased with. And I know that the university officials worked very hard with talking to members and so forth to ensure that that stayed in the budget language. I believe we have the opportunity to play a vital role in the future development of a much-needed UC medical school in the Central Valley, the continued growth of enrollment opportunities in undergraduate and graduate programs at UC Merced, and advance the overall development of the newest campus. I have the honor of introducing our panelists who have each proven themselves to be excellent leaders in advocating for the University of California, Merced. I would like to thank them in advance of today's hearing for taking time out of your busy schedules. And the first panel representatives, we have Dr. Steve Kang. He was appointed as Chancellor of the University of Merced in January of 2007. He joined the UC Merced campus from UC Santa Cruz, where he served as Dean of the Baskin School of Engineering beginning in 2001. In his 6 years as Dean, he took a nascent program to significantly higher levels of achievement during its second phase of development. In recent years, he has forged important partnerships with the California Institute for Quantitative Biomedical Research, the California Institute for Information Technology Research in the Interest of Society, and NASA's University-Affiliated Research Center. He has also served on the advisory boards for UC's Cosmos and MESA programs. He holds 15 U.S. patents in electrical engineering. His current research interests include lower power, very large-scale integrated circuits, and nanoelectronics. Chancellor Kang earned his Bachelor's of Science from Fairleigh Dickinson University in Teaneck, New Jersey, his Master of Science from the State University of New York at Buffalo, and his doctorate from UC Berkeley. We also have Vice Chancellor for Administration, University of California, Merced, Mary Miller, here with us today. The Vice Chancellor for Administration is the campus officer responsible for the financial, budgetary, and physical facilities planning and construction and management of the campus, and is the budget officer for the campus, working with the Chancellor, Executive Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs, and other cabinet members. Vice Chancellor Miller represents the UC for all budget, business, and financial matters with the University Office of the President and here in Sacramento at the State Capitol. She directly supervises the following areas: administrative operations, budget office, controller, and Office of Business and Financial Services, capital planning, contracts, real estate, environmental, managing environmental health and safety, facilities, human resources, physical planning, design, construction, police, and public safety. Vice Chancellor Miller also serves on the board of University Community Land Company, which will create a full multiple-use campus community adjacent to the campus to serve up to 30,000 residents. The campus community will be a joint development with the Smith Trust, which originally donated 2,000 acres for the UC Merced campus. The development of the community will benefit both UC Merced and the Smith Trust, which is a scholarship fund for UC Merced students. We also have 3 UC Merced students who will be talking with us today about their experience and endeavors at UC Merced. With us we have Lamar Williams, who is student body president, a junior, and a management and computer science major. And second, we have James Kirby, who's a senior and a political science major, and Sarah Martin, who is a PhD candidate in the field of environmental systems. Dr. Kang, if you would go ahead and like to present for our first panel. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Assemblywoman Gelgiani. We are glad to be here to provide an update on the progresses that UC Merced has made since the last hearing. I'm Steve Kang, Chancellor at UC Merced. We are also here with great supporters of UC Merced. Ms. Bryn Fohan, Chair of Valley Coalition for UC Merced Medical Education, and Dr. Robert Diamond, MD of Children's Hospital of Central California. UC Merced was founded in Central Valley to provide access to UC quality research university education, to promote economic growth and job diversification, to provide cultural offerings, to provide collaborations with the businesses and the industrial partners. UC Merced now offers 19 majors and over 20 minors. The campus will eventually grow to accommodate 25,000 students by year 2035. UC Merced has been an economic engine in the region. Over $1.5 billion have been provided to the local economy through payroll, purchasing value goods and services, and construction contracts. This amount is over $1 billion statewide. Considering the usual multiplication factor of 2 to 4, this amount is very, very significant. We are most proud that UC Merced represents the face of the future of California. Indeed, the student body of UC Merced is the most diverse. First, 52% are first-generation college students. Nearly 50% are Pell Grant eligible, and over 40% are Carl Grant eligible. Ethnically, 33% Asian, 7% African American, 22% white, and 32% are Hispanic, and UC Merced was designated by the U.S. Department of Education as a Hispanic serving institution in April 2010. UC Merced educates students from all corners of California. 32% of our students originate from San Joaquin Valley, 29% from San Francisco Bay Area, and 28% from Southern California. The statistics on the right-hand side of this slide show that number of students from your regions, from Merced to Kern, San Joaquin, Tulare, San Francisco, Santa Clara, and Los Angeles. Truly, we have students from all over the state. The diversity among staff and faculty are also very, very high, although there is some lagging from that of our student body. It will require some time for these to follow closely that of our student body, but that will happen in the future. In terms of enrollments, UC Merced has experienced a rapid rise in student enrollment, especially in undergraduates. This fall, we expect to have over 4,000 students. When I started in 2007, we had less than 1,300 students. In 3+ years, the enrollment has been more than tripled. Our retention rate from freshman to sophomore for those who come in 2008 was 83%. So far, our 4-year graduation rate has been over 32%, higher than the national average of 29%. However, this rate is much lower than the recent University of California-wide average, but it matches the rate of UC about 10 years back. UC Merced is the research university of the 21st century. As such, we also put much emphasis on graduate education and research. Over the last several years, the external research funding has grown significantly to almost $23 million in 2009. I'm sure that this number will increase in the coming years, reflecting active research of our world-class faculty members. Much of the research expenditures are to support graduate students and also to benefit the local economy in many, many ways. The quality of our institution is closely linked to the quality of our faculty. This is actually true in any research university. Over the last few years, our junior faculty members won national honors such as the Presidential Early Career Awards in science and engineering called the PKs, Young Investigator Awards, and the Smithsonian Essay Award, among many others. They are indeed world-class professors. UC Merced is building its own distinction within University of California system and globally. Our strategic academic vision 2025 is about what the campus would be like when you reach the student population of 25,000 students. We are building excellence in environmental sustainability, human health and medical education, which we have been planning for a new medical school in phased approaches. Cognitive science and intelligent systems, culture, community, and identity, and the social and economic progress. So next, I'd like to hand this presentation to our Vice Chancellor Miller. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Miller?
Thank you. How are you today?
Very good. Thank you. We appreciate you being here.
Well, we appreciate being asked to be here. I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the issues and some of the accomplishments that we've been addressing as we're growing this really remarkable campus. I'll talk a lot about the funding that we have for enrollment growth for the faculty, for the staff, and then for facilities. But I need to talk about things in reverse order because the way that I always approach it is that we have to have the facilities in order to get the faculty. We have to have the faculty in order to attract the students. So I'll talk about the facilities first. And the state has made a pretty major investment in the facilities of the campus. You've been to the campus several times, and if you have not been to the campus, we would really love to have you there because it's a very impressive place. The state's, I think, invested about $250 million thus far in the facilities, which is a pretty significant investment, and we have made an equally significant non-state investment with residence halls and dining facilities and parking lots and now some CERM facility and things like that. We have, a couple of the, if you go on to the next one, this is the investment so far. These are the academic buildings that the state has invested. The library, the classroom and office building, and then our science and engineering research building. They're very beautiful buildings, they're very large, and they accommodate a lot of students and a lot of classes and a lot of faculty doing research. In addition, we have many of our administrative and support staff housed in those facilities, but we also have had to lease a lot of space in town because we don't have enough room for everybody on campus. We also have a kind of a satellite facility out at Castle Air Force Base where we have faculty research labs, and we have a lot of our staff housed out there also. But in the future, and you can see in the green, if that is green, greenish yellow, is what's been invested so far. And our newest building that will be coming on in a year is that spike in 07-08, which is the Social Sciences and Management building. The very next building, which is in this year's budget package, is Science and Engineering 2, and we appreciate your support in helping us with that, with the funding for that building, but that's the very next building that we'll have. This is the need that we have for academic buildings over the next 10 years as we grow. We expect that by 2020 we'll be somewhere between 10 and 11,000 students. This coming year, this coming fall, we'll be over 4,000. So we have quite a bit of growth, and these are the facilities that we believe that we need, the academic facilities alone. But one of the things I want to point out is that we're always talking about the need for jobs in California, and there are a lot of jobs that are associated with the construction of those buildings. The total capital budget for the next 10 years, assuming that money can be found for these things, but this is really our total capital need for the next 10 years, is about $1 billion. Now, that's not just state funded, that's all of our non-state facilities also. So it's quite a hefty investment. Let me go back to this one. But these are the next two buildings that are coming on, the Social Sciences and Management building and then the Science and Engineering 2, which hopefully the funding will be approved for when the budget passes. These are the types of buildings that we need over the next 10 years. You can see about half of it, almost half, is instruction and research. And then the student fee funded includes things like a student union. It includes recreational facilities. We have more housing that we're going to be bringing on board. We'll have a couple more housing projects over the next few years. Infrastructure is an item that I really want to point out. It's the orange to the right. Almost $145 million we need in infrastructure. And a big part of that is because of the siting of the campus. We're sited in a location that had that was kind of rife with vernal pools and endangered species, and so we have a lot of mitigation needs. But the other part of it is there were no roads, no sewer lines, no water, no nothing. And so we have this huge infrastructure need. And we've already made quite a hefty investment in infrastructure, but that's just a big chunk of what we'll need in the future. This just shows you, I want to point out that the let me see here. The green bar is the CPEC allowance. If you're familiar at all with CPEC, it says what we should have according to the number of students that we have and the disciplines that we have. So it's a California, I'm sorry, I forget exactly what the acronym stands for. California Post-Secondary Education Council, Committee, something. Anyway, it tells us how much space we should have. The blue, the light blue, shows where we are right now. And so you can see that according to these standards, we're a little bit above where we need to be in space, although that's because CPEC doesn't quite work as well for new campuses as it does for established campuses. But nevertheless, we're pretty close to what we need right now. But as we grow, you can see that the planned spaces are the dark bar. And that shows in our 10-year capital plan where we think we'll be going. We will be well under our CPEC allowance. So my point is that we've got a plan for growth, but that plan is still going to be very tight in terms of space. And we don't ever anticipate that we'll not be tight on space, because almost every university I know is. Growing into our future, you can see the existing campus is on a little over 100 acres. It's that very dark, kind of amoeba-shaped outline. And then the 815 acres is where we think we will grow. We now have our 404 permit, which will allow us to grow into that space. It'll take us many, many years to get there, maybe 30 years, maybe 50 years to get to fully develop that space. But that's for a 25,000 student campus. By 2020, as I said, we think we'll get to 10 or 11,000 students. So as we grow, then we will have to provide the infrastructure necessary for that. We have to do the environmental mitigation along with the 404 permit that we have, and along with the CEQA requirements. We have to mitigate for some of the destruction of vernal pools, et cetera, that we will be doing. And so we're in the process of doing all of that. In addition, we need to prepare for off-site roads to come to the campus. We have two-lane roads that bring people to campus. As we grow, we're going to need more. And so we've got off-site mitigation, which is roadways. And then we have a need for urban services, water, sewer, fire protection, et cetera, that we will be contracting with either the city or the county or perhaps some other entities, or we may end up looking to some other resources for providing those services. But as we grow, these are some of the things that we're addressing. These are some of the big issues that we're facing. We've done a lot of things right so far. I want to point out on our sustainability. Sustainability is a hallmark for our campus. And we received just last year the governor's, the GILA Award, Governor's Environmental and Economic Leadership Award for our land use plan for the campus. And there was only one award given out last year for that, and we received it. We've received a lot of other awards from the California Higher Ed Sustainability Conference. In addition, every one of our buildings is LEED certified, and we had set a minimum standard of LEED Silver, but most of our buildings have achieved LEED Gold, and we think that one of our buildings is going to be getting the highest possible certification, which is LEED Platinum. Our child care center is a modular building, and it's getting a LEED Gold certification and is the first one in the country to get that. Now, there's a little bit of a small bit of an additional investment to build buildings that are LEED certifiable, but the payoff is incredible because right now we are spending about 50% on energy that a traditional building would spend. We're using about 40% of the water that a traditional building would use. We have, you can see in the picture on the right, we've got a 1 megawatt solar field that we've put in, and it is generating about 20% of our annual energy need and about 50% of our need on a hot summer day. So we've done a lot of really outstanding work with regard to sustainability. From the campus standpoint, we do a lot of good work with sustainability in research also, but especially from my perspective, from the campus, we've done this. Looking at our budget, I just wanted to show you a little bit of the history. The state has put in a base of $10 million for the new 10th campus, and that was before any workload funding like enrollment funding. The reason for that is that circumstances are so different now from when campuses were established back in the 60s. So many of the requirements are different. There was no CEQA, there was no 404 permit, there was no EPA, there weren't IT requirements like you have now. Faculty didn't have the expensive research equipment that they have now. So we have that base in there, and in addition to that, the state added a supplemental which $14 million a year for 3 years. That $14 million was supposed to ramp down when we got to a crossover point where we could be self-sufficient. Unfortunately, I think it was the formula was not quite right, and so it's ramping down before we reach self-sufficiency, but we're getting close. We're getting very close. So in 07-08, was the last year of the 14 million. Then it went down to 10. Then it went down to 5. It is scheduled to go down to 0, but it's part of the budget package that the 5 million would stay in there. And we're sincerely hoping that that will happen because that will help us significantly in getting to that level of self-sufficiency, which we think we'll attain somewhere around 7,000 or 8,000 students. Then we have the enrollment-based funding, and from the state, that stopped. The last year of that was 16 million. I mean, the last year of that was 07-08, when we were at 16 million. So we're prior to that, we'd gone up in our enrollment-based funding. It stayed flat since then, yet we have continued to grow. And we don't have any reserves. We don't have flexibility like more established campuses might have. So what's happened, if you jump down to the UCOP, UC Office of the President, and other campuses, they have stepped up and pitched in that enrollment-based funding for us out. The Office of the President has tapped the other campuses for some of it, and they've gone into their own reserves for as much as they possibly can. So we have a commitment from them to provide that funding for enrollment growth for the next 3 years. This year, that's just starting, and then 2 more years after that. Following that, then we have no more additional funding unless the state is in a position to then go back and pick up the enrollment growth funding, which we're certainly hoping the state will be in that position. And then this just shows you the balance of our core revenue. It doesn't include things like our auxiliaries or our research funding, but for the most part, this is the funding that we use to run the campus and to teach and to provide the basic functions of the university. Now I mentioned that we do have this agreement with the Office of the President where they will continue to provide us that enrollment growth funding for the next 3 years because they recognize that this campus must continue to grow. We can't stay flat or we'll start to slide backwards because we might, if we can't keep adding students and we can't keep adding faculty, we might start to lose some of the faculty that we have and lose our momentum. So we feel that we need to get to some kind of a crossover point before we can flatten out. So they said that they would give us enrollment growth funding for 3 years, which would allow somewhere around 600 or so new students per year. Then after that, we're looking at some transitional space to teach those students because we have a building opening in 1 year and then not another one for 3 years after that. So we're trying to look at whether or not we can get some temporary space to do teaching. We agreed that we would do strategic hiring of faculty and staff in trying to hire the faculty that may be less costly in terms of their research needs. And then we're going to be building our graduate enrollment because that helps a lot with teaching. The graduate students are an essential component of the teaching staffing. And we're going to be moving many more of our students into the humanities, social sciences, and management majors, which are less costly to teach than some of the science and engineering majors. So this is part of an agreement that we have with the Office of the President. We'll do our part. They'll provide us the funding. And I think after that,
Yes,
turn it back to you.
So to summarize our update, with your support, we are having tremendous success. I think best testimony to that is our student success. Our students, they are moving on. Not only they are having good educational experience, leadership experience on our campus, they are moving on to professional schools and graduate schools. So this highlight some of our students. Justin Castillo, who came from a Fresno area, he's now at UCSF Medical School. Jackie Shea, second picture, she's in Peace Corps. And many students move on to Harvard University, Syracuse School of Law, UC Davis School of Veterinary Medicine, and the UCSF School of Dentistry. Just this summer, 6 of students went to Harvard for their Latino Leadership Institute program. Harvard selected 29 students nationwide. 6 came from UC Merced. That's almost 20% from UC Merced. And our students, they compete internationally, getting a first place award in robotics and also academic bowl, technology bowl competition. So overall, our students are really having great success. I'm so proud of them. And you will hear from some of our students next. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And Lamar Williams, our student body president, welcome.
All right. Good afternoon, Assemblyman Member Galjani and members of the Select Committee. So my name is Lamar Williams. I am a junior at UC Merced and a native of Hayward, California. When I applied to college, I applied to 6 UCs and 4 Cal States. I was accepted to 4 out of the 10 universities I applied to. During that application period, I did not apply to UC Merced. But luckily for me, I was fortunate enough to receive an email from the UC system being asked or invited to forward my invitation to UC Riverside and Merced, which I did. After being accepted to both schools, I visited both campuses. Both schools are great universities with much to offer. However, when I visited UC Merced, I simply felt at home, and I still do. All I could think about during that summer were the endless possibilities and uncharted roads that I would take at UC Merced, what I would discover, and who would discover me. The school seemed like opportunity with endless possibilities, and I loved it. I arrived for classes at UC Merced in 2008, and within the first month of school, I realized my perception was correct. There are endless possibilities at UC Merced. My first opportunity arose as being a co-founder of a club at UC Merced. My next opportunity was being able to conduct research on sustainability of UC Merced, working with the Green Campus Club. Research in labs, especially for freshmen, is a rare opportunity at most UC campuses, but more common at UC Merced. During the same time, I was invited to a business organization in which I have been president of for 2 years. This summer, I interned at Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, San Francisco, with the Pacific Heights Group and have learned a great deal. I look back now and see that my experience at UC Merced was a great one. It has, for one, allowed me to say that I am the ASUCM student body president. The staff and faculty at UC Merced are astonishing. I can contact them anytime about any issue or if I have any question. Lastly, the relationships and atmosphere of UC Merced are what also make it so unique, which is one of understanding, enthusiasm, and motivation. Being at UC Merced, I have realized what the UC Merced is, which I believe it is the UC of opportunity. UC Merced has taught me the importance of education, philanthropy, and teamwork. UC Merced has allowed me to acknowledge and realize my potential, and with that, I am forever grateful. Now I would like to thank both of you for your continued support of UC Merced and for the chance for me to share my experiences. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And do we have the other two students that would like to come forward? James Kirby and Sarah Martin.
How are you?
Good, thank you. Welcome.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say thank you for having us today. My name is James Kirby, and I'm from Healdsburg, California. I'm a senior at UC Merced. So basically, I was a freshman when UC Merced was only 2 years old. This was his second year. And basically, at that point, there was only about 1,200 students. And as I'm sure you're aware now, there's going to be 4,000 students coming in this next fall. So as you can imagine, it was I've been there to watch it grow in its fullest extent. It's been quite amazing. In fact, I currently work for the UC Merced Government Relations Office. While the initial size of the school could have initially disillusioned me, it really just gave me an opportunity to go off and start organizations, be able to be a quintessential element to the growth of the campus. I utilized the administration to be able to start the first UC Merced lacrosse team. I started it with 12 other students, and we ended up becoming inducted into the West Coast Lacrosse League in 2008. Then I ended up coaching the team this last spring. I served on the ASUCM Senate in 2010 as the advocacy chair and helped write legislation that added to the growth and prestige of the campus overall. As a political science major, I ended up being honored to go to Washington, D.C. for the Washington program, so I'll be finishing up my last semester there. From there, I plan to join the Peace Corps and then attend law school. While it's true that everyone's experience with higher education varies, I can tell you that mine was filled with great opportunity and academic fulfillment. It is true that many young people who come from working class families in California, as I have not been afforded the opportunity to engage in the benefits of higher education. Counting this an unfortunate truism, UC Merced has proven to be a platform for the success of California's future and a place where all have the opportunity to excel. That said, there's only really one thing that I'd like this committee to take away from my experience, and that's that UC Merced works. Its contribution to the Central Valley and to California is already apparent in the students and supporters who stand before you today. As one of many students who feel this way about the campus, I feel nothing but compassion for those who have helped students like myself in our educational careers while we chart our future courses after college. I therefore see it as a pleasure to stand before you today and lobby for our campus and thank those who have made success for students such as myself possible. I urge you to continue to do so and continue to believe in the necessity of higher education for the prosperity of California's future. And at that point, I'd like to say thanks again and thank you for having us.
Thank you very much. And I'll just note, since you're a political science student, I know that myself and I'm sure Assemblywoman Fuller and some of the other Central Valley legislators would welcome you and others from your political science classes to intern in our offices. I started out as an intern a few years ago in 1982, and I changed my field as a result of it, but I think it's of great value. And I know we have had interns in our office from UC Merced, and we very much have appreciated their involvement.
Thank you very much. Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great.
Good afternoon, Assemblywoman Galgiani and Assembly Select Committee members. My name is Sarah Martin. I'm a graduate student at UC Merced. I've recently completed a master's degree at the university, and I'm currently working on my doctorate there. Being among the 15 founding graduate students who began study in fall of 2004, I've had a unique opportunity to watch UC Merced grow from the beginning into the thriving campus we have today. Coming from the Midwest, I had choices of schools from all over the country, but what attracted me to UC Merced was its world-class faculty and research opportunities. My lab is part of the Sierra Nevada Research Institute. It's one of several research units within UC Merced, whose mission is to promote collaborative interdisciplinary research by faculty, students, and staff across multiple schools and graduate groups. My area of study is mountain hydrology, specifically water cycles in Sierra Nevada. Our lab studies surface water, groundwater, snowpack, and climate cycles of a mountain range that supplies much of California's water. As you all know, water is an important issue facing California. The improved understanding of underlying processes and data collection methods our research can provide will help the state better plan for water-related challenges our growing population faces. This type of interdisciplinary research with real-life applications is where UC Merced excels. While many types of high-level research currently take place on the UC Merced campus, more investment is needed. When I started my graduate studies, there was no campus. We were in temporary lab facilities at the former Castle Air Force Base. The following year's move to campus gave us much-needed lab and office space in a well-equipped building. As of today, that initial Science and Engineering building is full, and the space that the future Science and Engineering 2 building will provide is very much needed. For your work in helping to allocate funding for these facilities, I would like to extend a special thank you to this committee and ask for each of your continued support for this new building and for UC Merced as a whole. Finally, I would like to thank the chairwoman and committee for their attention and for having us here today.
Thank you very much. I, too, remember when you were out at Castle Air Force Base. I was Chief of Staff with Barbara Matthews, and I remember we were anxiously awaiting the opening of the real university campus. So
We were as well.
congratulations. You were some of the first. So, okay, well, that concludes our first panel. Thank you very, very much. Our second panel represents the Valley Coalition for the UC Merced Medical School. First, we have Bryn Forhan, who's the chairperson of the coalition. Welcome, Bryn. She's a businesswoman and community leader from Fresno. She's had close working relationships with many Valley legislators at both the state and federal levels over the years and is highly regarded throughout the San Joaquin Central Valley. Mrs. Forhan has been a staunch supporter of the UC campus in the Valley and was asked in 2008 to co-chair the coalition along with former California Department of Food and Ag Secretary Bill Lyons, who's from Modesto. Mr. Lyons was able to resign as co-chair last year due to time constraints, knowing that the coalition was in good hands with Bryn at the helm. Thank you, Bryn. Chairperson Forhan operates under the direction of a 10-member executive committee, which represents the more than 1,000 healthcare providers, business and community leaders, and elected officials from 9 counties that make up the coalition. Second, we have Dr. Robert Diamond. He's Chief of Pediatrics at Children's Hospital of Central California. He was recently appointed the chair for the Pediatric Department of the UCSF Fresno School of Medicine. He is also Chief of the Department of Pediatrics at Children's Hospital Central California. Before he came to Children's Hospital Central California, Dr. Diamond served as Second Chief of Pediatric Critical Care and Vice Chair of Pediatrics at UC Davis, Chair of the Pediatric Joint Practice at Mercy Healthcare in Sacramento, and Program Director of University Children's Hospital at UC Davis. Dr. Diamond attended medical school at the University of Texas Medical School at Houston. He did his internship and residency at UC Davis Medical Center and fellowships at Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh and UC Davis Medical Center. He is extensively published and is a favorite of the residents because of his teaching skills. A current interest of his is telemedicine. That's something that we share. I've been trying to work with the Department of Corrections to institute more telemedicine at our prison facilities, which will save the state millions and millions of dollars each year, as you well know. That's something that we share. And we also have with us Coalition Executive Committee members present, Dee Diadamo, who's with Congressmember Dennis Cardoza, a board member of the California Partnership for the San Joaquin Valley. And Dee is someone who has also been with the UC Merced effort since day one. I think it would be best to hear from all of our panelists first today so that the committee members have a good overview of the status of the campus, the enrollment program, facilities, and funding. Finally, we have Tim Curley, Director of Government Affairs for Children's Hospital, Central California. If you would like to go ahead and present. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And we are pleased to be here today participating in this Select Committee hearing on UC Merced. I think we've all had the opportunity to hear about some of the great things that are going on at UC Merced, which we are very proud about, and it's growing by leaps and bounds. And I think that in addition, with regard to the Valley Coalition for the UC Merced Medical School, we embrace that progress and the change that is happening and look to the future as well in terms of other things that will be coming online. And the UC Merced Medical School is something that we're very focused on because we'd like to see that happen. And as you had mentioned earlier in the opening comments, the Valley Coalition came together in about February 2008 at the urging of yourself as well as Congressman Dennis Cardoza and Congressman Jim Costa. And we were about 150 or so members at that time. And what's really wonderful is in that time and really over the last year, we have grown to a membership of over 1,000 members at this time from all throughout the Valley. And so we're really here to be able to announce that and relay that to you all, that we are growing by leaps and bounds ourselves, and people are catching on to the enthusiasm with regard to this particular effort. Our membership is comprised of those in healthcare delivery, business people, community leaders, elected officials, everyone from all walks of life. And they're dedicated, and we are all dedicated to ensuring that the medical school will meet the diverse needs of the Valley. The Coalition is committed to supporting UC Merced's efforts to establish a school of medicine that will increase the number of quality and culturally competent physicians practicing in the region, expand higher education opportunities for Valley students, and serve as an economic engine, much like it is today. Whether it is working with state legislators or members of Congress to secure funding for the medical school, or engaging in outreach and communication activities to expand the support base for the medical school, or advocating before the UC Regents to secure their endorsement approval. These are all of these activities that we have been engaged in. We really like to liken the Valley Coalition to being the rallying effort and the gas pedal to the effort of bringing about the medical school. Dr. Diamond will be sharing some additional information and speaking to the issue of the shortage of physicians, statewide certainly, as well as in the Central Valley, and he'll be speaking to that specifically. But we as the Valley Coalition have become the rallying cry, the group of individuals who are energetic, enthusiastic, and want to see this all happen. Last month, we were able to, and we've brought up here for today, is a report. We just published and released a report that is entitled Vision for the Valley, and it makes the case for the medical school and documents the comprehensive outreach and education project undertaken over the past year. We were very fortunate to receive a grant from the California Endowment this past year that allowed us to undertake this effort and to publish the report. When we started out with the outreach and education project, we decided that we had a twofold purpose to it. One was to raise awareness and educate the community on the proposed structure and benefits of a medical school in the Valley. And then secondly, to build greater community support throughout the 9-county area principally affected by the medical school, those counties being San Joaquin, Stanislaus, Merced, Mariposa, Madera, Fresno, Kings, Tulare, and Kern. Primary outcomes for the Outreach and Education Project were enhanced involvement of underserved communities in the UC Merced medical school planning process, a strengthened community voice in the medical school planning process, increased a community awareness in the Valley as well as the statewide of the enormous positive impact a medical school will have in the Valley, and 4, increased Valley residents' knowledge of the tools used to infuse cultural competence into medical education. We were able to do this by a variety of methods, whether it was having one-on-one meetings, stakeholder engagement, it was the distribution of information by person or through media at various avenues. We had speakers bureaus where we would go out to speak to various community groups and whatnot. And also, one of the key shining pieces of this strategy was a community listening tour that we went county by county and established county committees comprised of individuals in each of those areas and brought together each of the public and the community in each of those sessions. And this happened over about a 9-month period. And I have to tell you, that was the most exciting part about this, because it's no longer a one-dimensional topic about a medical school and all of the jargon that might be related to it. We took it out to people, and the most amazing thing happened. Everyone embraced this concept and said, medical school, absolutely, we support it, what can we do? And frankly, it was something that buoyed our enthusiasm, got us going even further, and kept us going, and really kind of keeps us moving forward toward that target to make that happen. So that has been absolutely critical to us, and certainly it helped us build our membership, but it just built the understanding amongst the broader community throughout the San Joaquin Valley about the need for this in terms of being able to address the shortage of physicians. We know that it's been demonstrated that by where physicians get their medical education training and their residency training is where they will stay. And so it is really very important to us that we recognize with an institution such as UC Merced that we have the capability and the capacity to grow our own doctors. Absolutely essential. We recognize that the UC Merced Medical School will improve the health of the Valley and state, serving as a leader in developing innovative research-intensive programs focused on health issues specific to the Valley. The medical school will be built upon the university's strong health sciences research base by leveraging partnerships with UC Davis and UC San Francisco. It will be founded in a community-based distributive model utilizing existing regional facilities for training culturally competent physicians. Students will spend the first 2 years of medical education on the UC Merced campus and the second 2 years in clinical settings in Valley medical facilities. And I point that out only because that distributive model is a much more community-based, cost-effective, efficient, and innovative model in order for us to be able to make this happen. We recognize that we're in very dire budgetary times, very difficult times, but as Dr. Diamond will point out in his comments following me, that the need is very, very great. So we perceive our role, frankly, as continuing to make this happen, to keep working. And so we appreciate the opportunity to be here, to be able to share some of this information, to provide our report to you, and to recognize there's been a great deal of work that has been done on this project for the last 5 years. And we appreciate the fact that we've gotten some positive reinforcement from the UC Regents that this planning can continue, but we know that the road is not at the end. We have to keep working and keep working more diligently. And so the concept of the distributive model, we know, is something that will be able to get us there. And I would say that we're somewhat impatient. That we as the Valley Coalition say, we recognize that with the limited resources that we need to keep the pressure going. the need is so great, we can't ignore it. We know that we need to keep working fastidiously and aggressively, that we know that we try to create this medical school as soon as possible. And so we have a target that we've said by 2015 that we might be able to do that. We're enthusiastic, energetic, and optimistic, and we're willing to take that on. And so we're pleased to have the opportunity here today to share this with you and look forward to some continuing dialogue in the future. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank and welcome Assemblymember Steve Bradford and Assemblymember Joe Cotto for joining us here today. And am I correct that we're going to have a shortage of about 17,000 physicians by the year 2015?
Yeah, listen, I commend you for your enthusiasm and commend you for your efforts at how systematically you've gone about the outreach initiative. To follow up on what Chairperson Galgiani was saying, one of our members, Eddie Hernandez, who works in the Los Angeles area, always likes to point out the fact that he'll pull out one of his credit cards and he makes the speech at saying, even if in this country or in California, if everyone had health insurance and they were covered with health insurance and they had the finances to see a doctor, they still wouldn't be able to get treated appropriately because of the tremendous shortfall of practitioners in the health field. So I commend what you're doing, and certainly you can count on me to help support and encourage and promote the establishment of this medical center. 2015, it's too bad we couldn't do it by 2011, right, Mr. Bradford? And particularly when you look at the demographics of the Central Valley and the fact that that the economics of the valley are struggling and one of the poor regions in our state, this would add a tremendous economic boost to the area as well as provide the very critical services that are needed by the people of California. So I commend you. Thanks for your enthusiasm and stay with it.
Thank you. We would love for you to be a member of our Valley Coalition. I think you sound, I'm impressed with your enthusiasm, sir. When I was the chair of the Latino Caucus. We did a health summit down in Los Angeles, and some of you came and participated, and we heard from you then. And I think the members of our caucus were gung-ho. They said, let's encourage and support and promote and encourage the investment in the Central Valley. And so you got us. I mean, and we want to keep working with you. Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Diamond?
Thank you. I really appreciate the privilege of coming here to speak to you and help educate you about what I think is really a current and growing crisis. I'm going to present some data from the California Healthcare Almanac from the California Healthcare Foundation that really just validates that what many of us who are in the trenches all day, every day get to experience. I don't want to go through all of this, but if you look at the third bullet there, it emphasizes that 30% of the physicians in California are 60 years or older. That's not a point well made. We're going to run out of...
Can I say one other thing? At the risk of interrupting you,
Sure.
and I don't want to do it because one of the follow-ups that we did, Assemblymember Bradford and Galgiani, was that after we did our health summit, we invited David Hayes Bautista to come and address us. And his whole focus was on this very same challenge, right? And he said that we have two Latinos, I think, in medical school. I think was the number he used. I mean, just a real serious issue. So didn't mean to interrupt.
We'll see some of that data in a few minutes. So yes, and on the next bullet it says, whereas Latinos represent 40% of the population, only 5% of the physicians are Latinos. So we have not, I think, done as well to obtain cultural competence as we can. The next to the last bullet I really want to emphasize, which is because of California's lack of medical school slots, for me as a pediatric training person, half of the residents we bring in, the new MDs, are trained out of the country. They are not of the same quality that UC produces, and I have to let one or two go a year, that they just don't cut it. That's not fair to either them, to the people in California, to our Central Valley kids, so it's just a real big problem. There are physicians growing in California, but if you see there from 245 to 262 per 100,000 in this 10-year period, we're still way behind the rest of the country. So we're not keeping up. This looks at, it's a little confusing, with the average number of primary care physicians, which is what PCP is, and specialists. If you look at the top two slots, the Inland Empire and San Joaquin Valley, we are way, way behind where we need to be, whereas obviously the Bay Area is not as bad. The San Joaquin Valley and Inland Empire are severely impacted. The Central Coast is actually an area that we serve also. They come to the Central Valley a lot, just not enough doctors. As I mentioned, the physicians are getting older in California. We've got almost 30% are age 60 and older. They're retiring faster than we can repopulate them. We can't get doctors into the valley. As you mentioned, the Latino physicians in population, if you go down to the very bottom one, which is the San Joaquin Valley, the Latino population is 45, 50% of the total. The number of physicians is only 6%. We are not meeting the needs.
The Inland Empire, too, a growing area.
Correct. Spanish speaking, surprisingly, in our Inland Empire and the San Joaquin Valley are certainly inadequate. We don't have enough Spanish-speaking people. I'm one of them, tragically. I took German in high school and college. Hasn't helped me much. I've had to learn a lot sort of on-the-job training, but I now wish I could actually go back and do that. I wish I would have had better counseling in high school. This is probably the single most important slide of the whole crisis that's coming. This shows that the population has increased from 1995 to 2009 from 31.7 million to 38.5 million in California. Actually, you can go back 10 years earlier and you still have that same population rise. But if you look at the state of California, the number of medical school graduates in 1995 was 1,012. The number of medical school graduates in 2009 was 982. We're staying flat. You could argue that's slightly going down. I'll call that within the error of measurement. The big point is there are 45 states in the United States that have medical schools. 40 of them have more medical school slots per capita than California does. Illinois, Texas, New York, Florida, New Jersey, Ohio, lots of medical school slots for their population. We are not even close. We do have this crisis coming of how are we going to get the physicians to serve our population? As has been mentioned earlier, the people tend to stay where they train. If you look at medical school graduates in California, and for residency, roughly 2/3 of them stay in the same state where they're educated. For us in the Valley, where we have our UCSF Fresno Medical Education Program, a lot of our residents will stay in there. Our pediatric program that's been going for 35 years has populated the Central Valley with pediatricians. And so we've done our job of doing that. We just don't have enough of them. So I think this really helps to say, if you grow your own, they'll stay where you are. As I mentioned, as you mentioned in my past history, I went to school and did my residency fellowship at UC Davis. I'm still here. Now I'm in the Central Valley, but I'm certainly staying in the region and intend to stay. One of the other points I want to make is that this takes a long time. When we talk about a primary care doctor, be it a pediatrician or an internal medicine or family practice, that's a 3-year residency. So if that person walks into medical school tomorrow, they're not in the workforce for 7 years. As a subspecialist, one of these overtrained subspecialists, I did 4 years of medical school and 8 years post-medical school. So that means if I was to walk into medical school tomorrow, it's 12 years before I'm in the labor force. So we really need to try to deal with this soon. When we talk about the distributive model of medical education, that is a highly viable model. As we mentioned, I went to medical school in Houston, Texas, and that's the Texas Medical Center that's 12 hospitals across the street from each other. But despite having that, more than half of my clinical training was scattered around Southeast Texas. Went 50 miles here, 60 miles there, got a great education that way. That model works very well. One of the beauties of this proposed project for the Central Valley is that we have a lot of medical infrastructure for training and clinical programs already. We do not need a $1 billion hospital. We don't need to go duplicate UCLA Medical Center. What we need is to take advantage of the clinical programs we have, bring the umbrella of the medical school under UC Merced, and move forward in doing this. And it's going to take a series of steps. The current PRIME program with Davis is the first step, but it's only a baby step. It's really not the end point. So when I went to school in Texas, we started with 50 students, went to 100. Now the class is 200 per year. And that's the way to grow. The current medical schools in California really don't have the capacity to say, let's go up by 30%. For example, UC San Francisco sends a lot of their medical students to our program in Fresno now. They can't handle them in San Francisco. So we need new medical schools just to keep up, let alone get past where the crisis is. So I really appreciate your attention and support, and I'm hopeful in the next couple of years we can really get this rolling and have our own medical school in the Valley. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And did Didi Diadamo and Tim Curley wish to make a presentation? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the members or any other points that wanted to be raised?
Just full steam ahead. You know, it's a very compelling argument, and it's been made before, and you know, Assemblyman Bradford can be extremely helpful in moving this along, so you ought to keep him informed as we move through this process. Please keep the members of the Latino Caucus and the African American Caucus informed about these. You know, this information is very powerful, and you have our support, but you have to keep us engaged so that then we can support and champion your cause, okay? And count on us to be able to do that.
I would just echo what my colleague, Mr. Cotto, stated, and I would like to blame myself in some way of being one of those 17,000 doctors that you're short of, because I entered college with the intentions of going to medical school, and I came from a medical household, so I know the great need in providing not only new physicians in California, but also nurses as well. So I encourage the work that you're doing here. And as we've heard with the success of the university, and to follow Mr. Cotto's comments also, even if every student in California desired to go to college and wanted to go to medical school, we would not have the seats available. So it's critical that we continue to provide those opportunities where they exist and expand upon them. So I commend you guys.
I'd like to add my comment since Assemblyman Bradford and Assemblyman Caro came late a little bit. But I'm proud to tell you that we do have more than 500 students from LA County at UC Merced. Yes, and right. So you are keeping track, and Congressman Caro, we also have 248 students from San Jose area at UC Merced. So we truly have students from all over the state, and UC Merced is also most diverse campus. In April, we were designated by the U.S. Department of Education as a Hispanic serving institution. We have 32% of our student body Hispanic, 7% highest within UC system, African American at UC Merced. So we are immensely proud, and I think our students are having really great experience on our campus. Thank you for your support.
Dr. King, I know we've always been very proud of the fact that we've had such a high percentage of students who are the first in their family to graduate from a university. Do you recall what that number is at now?
52% of our student body is first-generation college students.
Yes. I know we're very, very proud of that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please keep us informed.
Thank you. Yes, we will. Yes.
And if you make a particularly effort to make sure that the members of our collective caucuses, the African American Caucus and Latino Caucus and the Asian Caucus, you know, we want to know how you're moving, and we want to know if you're running into any obstacles so that we can support. You're doing the right thing. This is critical for the future of the state of California, and you know, we really want to support you and make sure that you feel empowered and that you know that we're behind you.
We do. Thank you.
Thank you, Assembly Member. Do we have any members in the audience that would like to raise any points or ask any questions of our panelists? No? Then I will go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Thank you so much for everyone's participation.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.